An entitled old couple screams at my kid at the top of their lungs, complaining that he's making too much noise and that he needs to shut up right now. And I'm honestly still shaken up about this because my kid quite literally did not do a single thing. Here's what happened. Okay, so I'm still shaken, rattled, and rolled about this, but I just experienced a Karen moment and I'm angry at him, but also angry that I didn't defend my kid harder. My kid is 9 years old, and like all 9-year-olds, he has a lot of energy, which he usually tempers in public because he also has extreme social anxiety to the point where we have him in therapy for it. He is generally a well-behaved little guy. He says please and thank you, apologizes unprompted when he makes mistakes, takes his hat off at the dinner table before being asked, corrects people politely when they use offensive language, and does what he's told with little complaint. He's got the heart of a lion and the demeanor of a lamb. I can count on one hand the amount of times I've had to discipline him in the last few years because he's just not a problematic kid. So my dad and I took him to McDonald's for a quick lunch, and since he has never once changed his order, we told him to go grab a seat on the long benches by the window. I went to grab napkins and ketchup while my dad ordered, and when I sat down, my son immediately said, "Mom, can we please go eat in the car? I don't want to be here anymore." Now, it took a minute of prompting before he admitted that he had been sort of rocking in his seat because he was nervous sitting alone. It's something the therapist has recommended we do, as it's a small discomfort and helps him get more comfortable with being independent, that being the sitting alone and not the rocking. Well, as he was doing that, I guess the bumping annoyed the elderly couple at the next table, so the man turned to him and yelled at him to cut it the F out, and the woman then hissed out, "Seriously, stop it." I then asked him, did he yell or did he say it kind of loudly? And he said no. He definitely yelled and then slapped his hand on the table. And seriously, he wasn't even at the table for more than 2 minutes tops. I told him we wouldn't be leaving, but that I doubted they'd say anything else since I was there, so he was safe. When my dad sat down between him and the couple, he eased up enough to eat in complete silence, and the couple looked mildly uncomfortable because it was obvious my son had said something, but I could tell that he was still shaken. I chose not to confront the couple because I didn't want to stoop to their level, but then they finished their coffees, which, let's be honest, we all know they'd been camping with that since 10 o'clock in the morning, and the man walked up behind me, jabbed me in the shoulder, and said to me, "Sorry, but he was bumping the bench and it was really annoying." And I was honestly so stunned that the only thing I could think to say was, okay, well maybe don't yell at my kid. But what I wanted to say was, if you yell at my kid again, it will be the last words you ever utter. My dad then said, "Was that guy serious?" And I told him what happened, and I had to stop him from getting up and throwing hands because jail doesn't have a seniors menu. And sure, I get that it's probably really annoying, but there were other options. You could say politely to him, "Hey, could you please stop? It's disruptive," which he absolutely would have done. And he even would have apologized because that's who he is as a person. Or they could have waited until I sat down a minute later and said to me, "Hi, excuse me, could you please ask your son to stop that?" Which it seriously would not have even come to that because he was simply antsy waiting for us to sit down while he was all alone and vulnerable in an open concept area full of people. So anyways, screw you McDonald's Karens, and I hope you felt super powerful and smug yelling at someone a tenth of your age and someone half your size. You truly set an awful example, and I hope I never have to deal with you ever again. Yeah, that's a really terrible thing to do to a kid, especially one that you don't even know. Like seriously, I think it's just a rule of thumb that as an adult, you don't talk to other people's kids. So the fact that these idiots decided to scream at a child sitting there waiting for their family, in my opinion, is so uncalled for. And I think for the original poster, I wouldn't feel too bad about your response because in those high stress moments, it's hard to know exactly what to say. But I think you definitely got the point across that what they did was completely inappropriate. And hopefully for the sake of you and your kid, this kind of thing never happens ever again. If you like Am I the Jerk, you're probably going to love Am I the Genius. Check it out, link down below in the description. Also, go to amithejerk.com/submit if you would like to submit your own stories. Am I the jerk for leaving early before dinner, all because my mom didn't cook any vegan options that my wife can eat? Because right now, my mom is freaking out on us, claiming that we're being disrespectful and that my wife needs to learn how to eat normally. And at this point, we really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. So I recently got married with my long-term fiance, and she and my mom have never really gotten along, and I always kind of hoped that things would get better after the marriage. Well, my mom invited us over for dinner, which was supposed to be our first meal as a married couple at her house. Now, my wife is a vegan. She was a vegetarian before but switched to vegan a couple of months ago, and my mom knows that she's a vegan. Despite that, my mom didn't prepare a single vegan dish for her, except for maybe a soggy-looking salad. Even the veggie soup, she added chicken broth to it, just to make it tastier. The rest was all non-vegan stuff like mac and cheese, fried chicken, jambalaya, and banana pudding for dessert. all things that my wife cannot eat. So I told my mom that we were going to leave before dinner since there's nothing that my wife could eat in the first place. My mom said that she can just pick out the shrimp out of the jambalaya and eat the salad, but I told her that's not how it works. Then she started insisting the veggie soup was fine, but I pointed out that it wasn't vegan because of the chicken broth, which according to my mom was BS. She then asked my wife if she can't eat just normally for one day. Well, my wife said no, but she doesn't mind just having the salad, but I knew she was just trying to save the day. At this point, I was fed up with how my mom was treating her, so I thanked my mom and I told her that we were leaving. Well, my mom freaked out. She blamed us with being disrespectful. She said she spent hours cooking all that food for me, but I told her that's the issue. She should have thought about my wife as well. But my mom said I was exaggerating because it's not like she's allergic or anything like that. So are we at fault for leaving dinner after my mom didn't cook anything my wife can eat? What should we do? No, you guys didn't do anything wrong. If I was in your shoes, I would have done the same thing. Does your mom not know that someone who's vegan, if they do eat any kind of meat, they can be like violently ill? Like that is known to happen to people and that is not something to mess with. But I think more to the point, it's just the fact that your mom didn't think about your wife at all. Like she literally made all this food and said, oh, it's fine. Just eat around the shrimp and eat normally. And it's like, lady, what are you talking about? That is so weird. The least that she could have done was at least make some kind of effort. But instead she just made excuses and somehow blamed the wife in this situation. So no, I don't think you're the jerk because this is absolutely unacceptable because the way your mom acted was incredibly toxic. Am I the jerk for kicking my friend out of my house at night? All because she threw up during our scary movie marathon. Because right now she's still mad at me and at this point I don't know what to do. Here's what happened. I'm a 16-year-old female and my friends and I have this yearly Halloween tradition where we have a sleepover at my house, turn off every single light, and have a scary movie marathon in my basement. This girl, who we will call Teresa, recently joined our friend group and came to our Halloween night for the first time yesterday. We started off the night with this film called Barbarian, and Teresa was terrified throughout the entire movie. She screamed multiple times, including screaming for 20 seconds straight during a jump scare. She started crying, hyperventilating, and she was hiding behind us. She ended up going on her phone half the time to calm her nerves, and we tried to comfort her or even joke about how stupid the creature looks just to try and lighten the mood. At one point, it must have gotten too much for Teresa because she threw up everywhere. We then spent half an hour cleaning up after her and trying to make her feel better, but she was still shaking and crying from fear. I suggested we watch some funny animal videos on YouTube to calm her down before going back to the scary movie marathon, but she refused, saying watching anything horror related would give her another panic attack. But I said she could probably stay upstairs with a light on and spend the rest of the night there and come back down when we finished the movies. But she said that even that was too scary for her, and my parents wouldn't be getting home until late, so there was no one in the upstairs part of the house. I asked Teresa what she wanted to do instead, and she said she wanted one of us to go upstairs with her so she wouldn't be alone. Now the rest of us were actually looking forward to the scary movie marathon, and we didn't feel it was fair for one of us to be left out of something that we actually wanted to do. Teresa said she was terrified of the dark, being alone, and the basement, and she begged for one of us to just stay with her. But I told her that her only choices were to stay and watch the movie with us or spend the rest of the night upstairs alone. She then began tearing up and pleading for someone to spend the night with her. Now, I really thought that this entire drama was just wasting time we were meant to be spending on our movie marathon. If she did agree to stay with us, then she would spend the entire time vomiting, crying, and having panic attacks. I also realized that it would be a bad idea to leave someone who's pissed off at me unattended in my own home. So I told Teresa that it would be best if she just left. It was only 7:00 p.m., although it was completely dark outside. She then burst into tears and said I was a monster for kicking her out in the dark, even though I knew she was too scared to go home by herself. But I said I gave her multiple chances to stay in the house, but she refused to take them, so this was literally my only option. Ever since then, she's been mad at me, and she now refuses to speak to me. So am I the jerk for asking Teresa to leave? Because right now, I'm not really sure what to do. Okay, I've got to be honest here and say that I think everybody sucks in this scenario, because seriously, this is all just a massive mess. For starters, Teresa is a complete idiot for showing up in the first place. If she knew this is how she would react to having any kind of like scary movie in front of her. Like seriously, she screamed for 20 seconds over a jump scare. Like I can understand for like a second, but 20 seconds? Like I don't know if you realize that, but that's a long time. So for her to even show up in the first place, while she knows that this is something she can't handle, in my opinion is really dumb. But also, the way that the original poster acted is incredibly rude. If my friend was actually having a panic attack and I cared about them in the way that a friend should care about someone, I would stop what I'm doing and try to help them out. I totally understand that you guys guys were looking forward to this night, but don't you think this could possibly get rescheduled for another night so that you guys can, like, I don't know, take care of your friend? And then you kick her out of the house afterwards? Like, oh my god, what is going on? These are kids we're talking about, like teenagers. She's not even a full-grown adult. And I don't know about you, but scary movies are especially scary when you're just a kid. So sure, Teresa definitely should not have been there in the first place, but for you to kick her out and be like, you've got to go, you're ruining the night, that in my opinion is incredibly rude and absolutely should not have happened. Am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend that his parents are taking advantage of us after they tried to increase our rent by up to 85%? Because right now I'm incredibly frustrated because my boyfriend doesn't see the truth right in front of him. And at this point, I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I've been dating my boyfriend for almost 5 years. We were housemates when we started dating and shared a house with others for a year and a half before deciding to move in together alone. 2.5 years ago, my in-laws bought a house and asked if we wanted to live there. And after some thought, we finally accepted it. The beginning was stressful because my mother-in-law wanted to be involved in all of the preparations, but I told my boyfriend we would handle it ourselves and she finally calmed down. Well, we signed a contract in my boyfriend's name with symbolic rent and responsibility for expenses. My boyfriend has a sister who lives abroad with a more stable financial situation, but his parents still give her part of the rent money to maintain equal rights between the children. My in-laws own a company, and 4 months ago, they told us they needed to raise our rent by 85%, all because they lost an important client. But my boyfriend and I discussed it and we proposed a 55% increase. Our contract is valid for 5 years, and by law, landlords can only increase rent once a year by up to about 2%. Before we reached this agreement, I expressed my concerns to my boyfriend, perhaps a bit aggressively, because it was unfair and not legal. I also suggested that if his parents needed financial help, they should ask him and his sister, given their emphasis on equal treatment. The discussion created tension as it did involve his parents. He spoke to them and they agreed to a 55% increase. Well, 3 months later, I returned from a vacation with friends, and he told me his parents plan to increase the rent next year when we reach 3 years into the contract, applying it retroactively for the entire period. And I was shocked, thinking this issue was finally resolved. I reminded him that legally they can only apply increases for 1 year. We argued again and I insisted they should follow the law. My boyfriend is just way too accommodating, and if it weren't for his parents, he would not accept it. I told him I wouldn't agree this time, and his parents could only increase the rent for 1 year. We haven't discussed it since, and I doubt he addressed it with his parents. But last weekend, we visited his parents in another city, and I discovered, even though he already knew, that they were renovating a studio they own with extensive work, which would have a new kitchen and bathroom and essentially everything. And it's then that I realized they probably raised our rent to cover these costs. I now cannot look at them the same way, and I don't want to be around them. I understand my boyfriend wants to help, but their approach is unfair and unjust to us, especially towards their son. Yet my boyfriend doesn't see their behavior as problematic, and it's affecting our relationship. So am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend that his parents are taking advantage of us? What should I do? Oh man, first of all, I can't believe you signed a 5-year contract. Seriously, what in the world are you guys thinking? Like, I can understand a year contract, like that's pretty normal, but 5 years? There's no way that's happening. Like, that really is a stupid decision, like come on. But also, you have it spot on. These people are illegally increasing your rent, and your boyfriend is just going along with it. And that is so uncalled for, it's not even funny. Like, this guy sounds like a complete pushover. And for a point of clarity, this guy is 30 years old. If he was fresh out of high school, I would understand this. But this guy is in his 30s, and he's just like, oh yeah, you can increase it 55%. It's like, no, you're not gonna do that. Like, that's not fair for anybody, and it's super illegal. So no, you are not the jerk for raising these concerns, because the way his parents are acting is completely insane. Am I the jerk for telling my boyfriend that I can't be around his mom for the time being after she said some awful things about my dead sister? Because right now I am incredibly upset, and I'm still so frustrated with the way she acted that right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so my boyfriend and I, and for the sake of the story we'll call my boyfriend Colton, have been dating for almost 4 years now. We met in college and instantly clicked. By now we've met each other's families and built a relationship with them. Colton went camping with me last year, and my family loves to camp. And normally it included several aunts and uncles along with a bunch of little cousins running around, and my entire family loved him. I've met his family a handful of times, and he's been honest with me in admitting that he isn't very close to his parents. He's the middle child in a family of 7, and he just felt neglected growing up, and like he was an afterthought. While he's still close with his siblings, all of whom I adore, he's never grown out of feeling like his parents don't care about him. His mom invited us over for dinner about a week ago, and it was going smoothly, and I was doing most of the talking, which is something that Colton prefers because he tries to minimize interactions. If he talks about work or friends, I've noticed that his parents tend to act disinterested or sometimes even critical for no reason at all. Anyways, his mom asked what I was doing this upcoming weekend, and I was honest, saying that I'm driving home because it's the anniversary of my sister passing away, and I always spend that time with my family. His mom knows that I lost my sister, so this is not new information. It came up when we first met because she kept asking about family, and I couldn't avoid telling her about it. The conversation slowly withered out then, but now she asked questions on top of questions that made me uncomfortable. I finally said that I didn't want to talk about this right now, and I apologized, saying that the topic made me sad. She then had the audacity to scoff and said something that made my heart stop. She said to me, "So you're willing to let your sister's memory fade away? Pardon me for wanting to keep her alive by talking about her." When she said this, Colton got pissed. He helped me out of my seat, and he walked me to our car before going back inside and grabbing our things, and I cried the entire way home. Well, she invited us over for dinner in 2 weeks to try and make things right. Colton thinks that we should go, but I'm really afraid that I'll have a meltdown if I see her that soon. He's a little upset because she's blowing up his phone about it, and this is what he's trying to avoid. Apparently, she also told his siblings what happened because Colton's sister, who is one of my good friends, called me up saying that I'm being unkind by not giving her a chance to apologize. I really don't want to talk to her right now, and I'm not saying forever, but just not right now. I've told my friends and half of them are torn because I will have to see her again eventually, and waiting it out might make it harder because right now I seriously don't know what to do. No, you're not the jerk at all. You're creating some necessary distance from someone who said some awful things to you. She was being intrusive and she was making you sad, and that in my opinion is so inappropriate. And the fact that she said, "Oh, okay, I guess we'll let your sister's memory fade away. Sorry for bringing her up, I just wanted to keep her alive." Like, why would she say that? That's so rude and so mean. And I totally understand where Colton's coming from as well, because he's probably like, "Listen, I just want this to go away." But if I was in your shoes, I would feel the same way. This lady said something absolutely unmistakably rude, and she did this about someone who passed away. Like, that part alone makes this so inappropriate it's not even funny. So no, I don't think you're the jerk for wanting to have space away from his mom, because the way she acted, in my opinion, is completely unacceptable. Am I the jerk for signing up for a marathon last minute that my friend was also participating in? Because after she found out, she freaked out on me, saying that running is her thing and that I have no right to run in anything ever again. Because right now I'm very confused by her reaction, and I'm starting to second guess if I did the right thing or if I really did overstep some boundaries that I might not be aware of. Because right now I really don't know what to do. Here's what happened. Okay, so I recently signed up for a marathon a week before the race after finding out that I would need a new rotator cuff surgery. I haven't been able to climb, which is my first love in life, but I've always enjoyed running casually. I've done a few races before, one marathon without any training, so I felt like I could probably do it again. And it's something that keeps me motivated and gives me a sense of accomplishment, especially as I'm preparing for an upcoming surgery. My friend was planning to run the marathon but hadn't trained until the week of, and I figured that the both of us could run really slowly together. The whole week I was trying to find a bib, and I told her that I was planning to sign up as well. Now she was fine with that until I told her I finally found a bib, and then she got really upset. I had posted on Facebook saying that I was going to run it last minute, and she just freaked out on me. She told me that running this marathon was her thing and feels like I'm trying to take over something that's special to her. She said that me posting about it on Facebook would overshadow her post, but I never saw it that way. I just thought that we could even support each other during the run. She accused me of being an awful friend and then said some really terrible things about me. Now at the run itself, I lost her at the first mile. I texted her like 5 times and called her 3 times, and she ignored every single one of them. She then called me 2 hours later, and she's 3 miles behind me and tells me to stop and wait for her. Now at this point, I had decided to run the marathon for myself, and I would see her at the end, so I just said no, which she then insisted is a sign that I'm a selfish and unsupportive friend. She was so mad that I was ahead of her that she quit at mile 16 and cut the course to finish with a better time than me, which I mean is fine. I finished with a good time and I was proud of myself in the end. But even still, she is insistent that running is her thing and says I'm not allowed to engage in it, which feels literally insane to me. She was originally going to help me with post-surgery stuff, but now she's decided not to, saying she feels betrayed by me doing the marathon. But I don't feel like running a race should be something that belongs to one person, especially since it's something that I love as well. But maybe I missed something in how I approached it. So am I the jerk for signing up for a marathon, even though my friend feels that I'm stepping in her turf? What should I do? No, this is not even a problem to begin with. Your friend's an idiot for being like, no, running is my thing. For starters, she's only upset that you got in this this race because you are definitely faster than her. Like seriously, you were 3 miles ahead of her. Like what's going on right now? So that's probably the number one reason why she just didn't want you to be there, which in my opinion is just a stupid reason to begin with. Like marathons are for anybody. Anyone can sign up for them. And the fact that she's trying to gatekeep running, in my opinion, is insane. Like this really is some bizarre behavior. And if this was what revealed that she's a crazy psycho friend, then I think this is probably the best gift she could have possibly given you. Because at the end of the day, nobody owns an activity. You're literally just trying to stay healthy after an injury, and the fact that she wants to take that away from you, in my opinion, is incredibly weird. When you subscribe, make sure to hit the bell to turn on notifications. To finish listening to all the stories, check out the playlist at the top of the description. And if you want some chill music to put on in the background, check out easymode.com. If you like Am I the Jerk, subscribe to Am I the Genius. Everything will be linked down below in the description.